Hello everyone, it's Jimmy here and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to review a camera that has been on my list for a while and I think it's long overdue, and that is the Leica M11. Now the M11 was released back in January 2022, so it's been more than 2 years. I've recently used it quite extensively, quite exclusively actually, and since Leica has released the M11D, which I'm not too sure about whether I will get that camera or not down the road. So it might be a good time for me to, give you guys my, long-term experience with the M11 here. Okay, so when I first heard of the camera, I believe I've done a video on my channel. I was quite excited and also a little bit scared because Leica has done a lot of things differently regarding this generation of M. First of all, they used a state-of-the-art camera sensor, a whopping 60 megapixel sensor on this new M, which is unheard of because when the M10 was released or the M9 was released, Leica pretty much used some outdated sensor technology on their cameras. So it's never been great for low light or highlight retention or dynamic range, that sort of thing. But this time around, they not only used, like I said, a state-of-the-art sensor, they've also made it so that the sensor is metering the scene all the time, rather than the traditional Leica metering that you've seen on even film cameras like the M7. So there's going to be an improvement in metering, color accuracy, that sort of stuff. But they've also taken away something that we hold dearly, like the bottom plate, for example. So yeah, I think I should start this review with the negatives or the downsides, at least that I thought initially is going to happen to this camera. They no longer have a brass top black Leica M. Like I said, they got rid of the bottom plate. Functionally speaking, it might actually be annoying that you have to remove the bottom plate first to get access to, the SD card, the battery, that sort of thing. But we're also used to it. It's just like loading a film Leica, right? So it's more of a nostalgia thing rather than functional. One other thing is, like I said, this camera now works pretty much like any other mirrorless camera, like your Sony or Nikon or Canon, because the metering method has been changed, which implies two things. One, it's going to be slower. So for example, the M11 startup time is about 3 seconds, while the M10R or M10 is usually around 1 second. So you might be thinking, well, it's a street camera, it has to be super agile, and losing that 2 seconds could be a deal breaker, right? So that's what I thought initially. And another thing is, since the sensor has to be reading the scene all the time, so the shutter curtain is always open, and when you release a shutter, there's an extra motion of closing it, open it up again, and close it again. Rather than in the old Leica, the sensor curtain is closed to begin with, so you just need to open it and then close it, right? So that extra motion might cause, unpleasant shutter sound, for example, and a feel of this laggy sort of shutter. So all of these are negatives that you can obviously envision when the camera was first announced. But later on, I actually find that all these negatives actually turns into positives in a lot of ways. So that's why next up, I'm going to talk about what I really like about this camera. Let's start with the bottom plate issue. So without the bottom plate, what Leica was able to do is put a bigger battery in it, so it lasts pretty much a full day. And also you have a USB-C port right here. And this is a huge deal actually, because most of our devices these days use USB-C charging, like your phones, your computers, so you don't have to bring an extra battery charger with you. And also you can use your power bank to charge it in a pinch if you run out of battery. So that's actually a huge plus, and it was only enabled because of the removal of the bottom plate. And it also sort of makes the camera a little bit lighter because you don't need to bring that extra batteries or battery chargers with you, unlike the M10s or M10Rs, right? So your total traveling package will be lighter. Talking about lighter, I found the biggest advantage of the black M11 is its weight. So with battery and storage card is about 530 grams, which means with the lens, for example, like the 7-element here, it's actually quite a bit lighter than even the Leica Q, which is funny because the Q is supposed to be a lightweight and portable point and shoot camera, but it's actually about 100 grams heavier than the Leica M11 if you pair it with a lighter lens. So that's huge, right? Because if you have lighter gear, you're more happy to bring it with you, and it's less of a burden when you're traveling. So yeah, so without the brass top, I initially thought it would be a big deal because you can no longer get brassing, but actually you can't get that patina on your black M10 anyways because it's black chrome, right? So unless you have a M10R black paint, which is a special edition camera, you can't get that anyway. So it's not that big of a issue, and saving a couple of grams of weight is actually a bigger issue if you're actually using this camera. And then to the sensor and the metering method, yeah, I initially thought it would be a big deal when everything is slower, the shutter is laggier and it turns on slower, but actually no, like when I'm using this camera, like the shutter sound is not overly annoying. Let's just have a shutter sound comparison with the Leica M10R real quick here. And also a fairly easy mitigation method to avoid that slower turn on time is simply do not turn it off, right? Simply leave it idling. And because of that much better battery life, you can just leave it on, and then when you bring it up, you just have pressed the shutter and it turns the camera on. I think overall, the M11 is a more complete package if you actually intend to use this as your everyday carry EDC camera. The elephant in the room is actually image quality. That, I suppose, is what everybody cares about. So like I said, this has a really good sensor to start with, but it's also plagued by an issue, which is a magenta tint on the files. Doesn't matter if it's your M11, M11D, M11P, using the same sensor, the same processor, the same color science, and Leica never actually tweaked it in any way during the firmware updates. So no, the magenta tint is still there, but it's actually not an issue for me because I post-processing all my Leica files without exception from my M9, 10, 10P, 10R. And for those of you who tend to shoot JPEG, there's really easy ways to fix it. For one, you can set it to daylight white balance. That tend to give you a little bit better result, and you can always tweak it in Lightroom to pull down that magenta tint a little bit. Or if you shoot raw, you can simply use a different profile. You can make your own profile, or I found that if you use the Lightroom daylight profile, it gets rid of the magenta tint altogether. So yeah, it's not really an issue if you ask me. And what I found is that the files coming out of this camera is actually quite easy to play around with. I found I tend to get better results in this camera than the M10 generation with some really simple tweaks. Let's take a look at a couple of sample photos just to demonstrate what I mean. So yeah, all these photos you've seen, it only took me a few seconds, a few clicks to edit them. Usually I just move that tint bar a little bit towards green and then put a preset on it, and that's it. Unlike for my M10 generations of cameras, I actually have to go into individual photos and tweak it a little more to get what I want. But again, mileage may vary between you and me. It's all personal preference in the end, right? And last but not the least, there is quite a few cases of lockups and black screens on this camera. I actually haven't really experienced it from my camera. It doesn't matter which firmware, but lots of people have reported that. But I did have image turning upside down after the latest firmware update. At least when I, import the raw file into Lightroom, the images are upside down for some reason, but it's really easy to fix. So for those of you who've experienced that, I'm really sorry. I think Leica should really sort that out, given that the camera has been released for more than 2 years. I found that to be unacceptable if people are still having issues quite regularly. And that is something you have to consider when you're buying a camera that's secondhand. If you're unlucky, you might get a copy that is plagued by that issue. Now, another camera that a lot of people are considering is the M10R. So I have a M10R black paint here. It's really, really beautiful. And my verdict would be that from a collector point of view, this is a better camera to invest in, because like all black paint Leica cameras, they tend to go up in value. But from a daily use perspective, I think the M11 is all around a better camera because of that bigger battery, because of that USB-C charging capability, because it's much, much lighter. It's also got a better sensor. So yeah, if you're gonna use that camera, carry it around with you all day, every day, I would recommend M11, even though I hated it to begin with. But yeah, I've over the years, I've learned to, enjoy it more and more, because at the end of the day, the camera that you carry around with you is the best camera that you have, right? So yeah, that is my thoughts and experience with the M11, and I hope you have enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you in the next one.